In doing so, we started to kind of go a little deep into areas of applied cryptography, start to understand the possibilities, and felt like, there was definitely a platform play to make here. So we went back and we said that, let's take like a base storage layer and start building value on top of it using some of these new things that we were learning and beginning to understand.
As the digital asset space grows, so does the need for more robust infrastructure solutions. Privacy solutions, onboarding users, managing data, and many more such aspects require solutions to streamline the ultimate user experience of the application and the protocol. Arcana is a Web3 privacy stack which is focused on helping developers build secure and privacy preserving applications for their users. To discuss the venture, we have Mayur with us today. Mayur is the founder and CEO of Arcana Network. Mayur comes with a rich experience founding and leading businesses and a deep understanding of product and project management. Welcome to CuratedX, Mayur. Stoked to have you with us today and really look forward to some engaging conversation.
Thanks for having me, Shavi, and giving us this platform to talk about what we are doing at Arcana.
Wonderful. So just to get things started, Mayur, Web3 to most of us has come by chance, hearing about Bitcoin, wanting to invest some chunk, and then taking a road ahead from there. So I would love to start by asking you about your journey and what was that tipping point where you thought that this is the future that you wish to build in?
I mean, yeah, honestly, I got in the same way. This was back in 2017, and exchanges started to crop up in India, and so it seemed only sensible to buy some Bitcoin, and then it seemed sensible to buy some Ethereum, and for some reason, it seemed sensible to participate in a bunch of ICOs for a bunch of shitcoins. And I did all of that and lost a bunch of money. Swore never to trade again. But yeah, I mean, I got in for the crypto, but stayed for the tech. I like went through as much as I could of the Ethereum white papers, and it made a world of sense to me. And it just instantly felt somewhere deep down that this is going to be the future. So I started devoting the rest of my career to this space.
Absolutely lovely. So, Mayur, if you can walk us through the 0 to 1 of Arcana network now, the three pillars of Arcana: auth, store, and access. And also very inquisitive to know why did you name it as Arcana?
Sure. So yeah, I mean, it's a long drawn journey to get to Arcana. Our journey started in 2018 when we wanted to kind of build something in the space, and it seemed like building something at the infrastructure level made a lot of sense because burgeoning technology and all. So we actually started out with the idea of building this like very straightforward decentralized storage platform, and we did that. And I founded a company back in 2019 that aimed to do precisely this. And thanks to all our early work, we were able to kind of go to market very quickly with a proof of concept. And once we did that is when we started to realize that nobody cares about decentralized storage, or at least not as much as we thought people would care. But we had built all of this tech. We were wondering what we should do. So in 2019, late 2019, we kind of pivoted to a product, and we built basically this browser extension that allowed you to send and receive encrypted files right in your Gmail without altering your Gmail experience whatsoever. And yeah, that seemed like a useful thing for people. But in doing so, we started to kind of go a little deep into areas of applied cryptography, start to understand the possibilities, and felt like there was definitely a platform play to make here. So we went back and we said that let's take like a base storage layer and start building value on top of it using some of these new things that we were learning and beginning to understand. And that's how Arcana came about. And this was late 2020, early 21. And we actually wanted to go with our old name. I really liked it, but we had some fairly influential people helping us, and they said it's not going to work. You need a better name. And so came up with a bunch and then finally fixed on Arcana. And the reason is because um, the word Arcana basically means secrets and mysteries. And so it just seems sort of apt to name that, if given that, you want to kind of focus on, helping people build privacy preserving applications.
Definitely. And it is very interesting how you paved your way into something, figured out, okay, probably this does not have the required market. And then you take a step back, figure out, okay, how can we make this work and try to build on it? I think that's how a lot of Web3 applications are gaining that momentum, the traction. Every industry takes that time to spur, and that's where you take that leap of faith. Okay, this is something that is really needed in the market, and we need to build on this. So really interesting on that front. Just taking that a little bit forward now, maybe. So with the growing number of protocols that we're seeing across the Web3 stack, right? How does Arcana stand out and differentiate itself from other similar protocols?
I mean, first and foremost, we've made very pragmatic decisions when it comes to the way we want to kind of structure Arcana. We are very clearly going to be a platform and not a protocol. The difference, of course, between the two is that if you're a protocol, then you start with like community-based governance, which is really, really cool, except that it simply isn't at a point where it's mature enough for like just like a fledgling community to kind of start to decide what direction a protocol needs to go through. And even governance in general for protocols is at such an early stage, right? We're seeing so many places where almost like the most logical and straightforward thing to do does not end up happening because for some reason the community kind of pulls in a completely different direction.
Right.
And so we basically decided that we are going to kind of pave this path and bootstrap Arcana to a level where it can actually reap the benefits of like a community driven sort of structure. But once we have a more mature community setup, once things are not exactly only token and profit driven, we're basically looking to have like a loyal community base and across the different stakeholders that we imagine will be there, like users, end users, our customers, service providers, people holding our token, all of that. We basically want like a good mix. And we feel like, this sort of bootstrapping will only help us move faster, more efficiently, in a direction. And we basically set the tone. And if we can do that well, and if we are able to kind of, come out on top in a couple of years' time, I believe that the entire ecosystem around token-based governance is itself going to kind of mature, and we're going to start seeing a lot of tooling, better ways of doing things like token-based voting, and things like that. So we'll just be ready for whenever that future comes.
Absolutely. It's great how you set the tone, right? That, okay, this is the moat that we're after and this is what we want to achieve. And in the very beginning itself, I think it is also very important to stand out and differentiate yourself. Okay, this is what we're focused on. Whatever's happened, we know what are we wanting to achieve with this, and this is the path that we're taking. So, and I'm sure in this path, there'd be multiple challenges and roadblocks that you must have faced. So if you can talk a little bit about that. So what have been some of these challenges or roadblocks that you've faced in the journey so far? And which are those critical points that you think in the coming future as well, you need to be very cautious of as you further grow this business?
Yeah, like some of the major things, like we've been through it all. Like this is our second bear market that we are building through. There have been multiple occasions in the past where we've seriously considered just shutting shop because we basically ran out of money and things like that. But thankfully, everything's going well for us right now. We have a good set of backers. We have a great team. We're able to deliver. We are now getting to customers and all of the sorts of things. So I think, just because of how early the whole market is, making presumptions about how the market will play out I think is extremely risky. It's something that we did the first time, presuming that people want everything decentralized from the get-go, but they really don't. So understanding market and understanding the needs of that market very clearly, even if it is counterintuitive, is something that every founder ought to do. These are just the fundamentals of building good products and platforms. So that's definitely one area that we've learned some hard lessons. And in general, uh, knowing and understanding that in this space, markets can really turn overnight, and all your plans to perhaps fundraise or do other things at different points in time really don't go to plan. So it's always better to kind of make sure that you have all your bases covered, you risk minimize from the get-go, because in these markets especially, like to survival is the number one, is the name of the game. And if you can survive and if you can come out on top, we've been doing it for the past 3.5 years, we've managed to survive. And then eventually, if you do, then you end up learning so much more about the space and the people involved and how things can move, and what are the things that you definitely should or shouldn't do. And then you have a clear opportunity to really make something really useful, because it's such early days, right? So there is definitely room for many people to come in and do interesting things.
Right, absolutely. And considering the volatility of the crypto markets, I think these are some very useful piece of advice that anybody who's starting off, anybody who's building in the space, considering you've been through two bear runs already and you've seen how the markets turn pages just overnight, I think those are some very key learnings that people will take back with them from this. Taking on from there, Mayur, I understand you recently launched your beta testnet and are in the process of launching more features. So what does the road ahead look like for the project?
So currently, we launched beta with three main services. Like you mentioned earlier, it's auth, storage, and access control. So we are looking at primarily the data layer. When I say the data layer, what I mainly mean is everything outside of compute. So the compute layer is something that is doing very well. I mean, we have Ethereum, of course, which is turning out to be like the base chain for a lot of other scalability projects like Polygon, like Arbitrum, like Optimism. Now we're going to start to see all the very interesting zero knowledge stuff uh, come to the fore, and this is really going to take compute into a very mature space, and probably even into a place where it's going to outdo whatever we have in Web2 also. Unfortunately, to be able to kind of really make Web3 mainstream, you need to go beyond just compute, right? If you want to see the Twitters and the Netflix and the YouTubes and the Instagrams of the world actually kind of move to, or people want to end up building like Web3 equivalents of these sorts of applications that have extremely large user bases, they need um, more tooling and better infrastructure outside of this compute space also. I mean, you just have to go and look at like the stacks of some of these very large applications that are used almost daily by many people, and you will start to realize that lots of these pieces simply don't exist in the Web3 space. So our future is essentially to kind of try and plug these gaps wherever we see them, wherever we see this sort of demand sort of crop up. And we are essentially looking to be like the Firebase for Web3. So anything you need outside of compute is something that Arcana will look to provide. And how will we provide this? It'll either be, IP and technology that we build in-house, because we have a fairly large team now that can work across many different sort of sectors. And of course, we are extremely well connected with a lot of existing protocols. So we would look to definitely leverage the more mature solutions out there and probably integrate them and give developers like a one-stop shop You simply come in few minutes, you integrate Arcana, and you have access to all of these different services that you can pick and choose from, depending on what your use case for your application is.
That's fascinating. I think a lot of things in store that we will be looking out for that Arcana is definitely going to come up with. So just moving apart from the project on a general outlook. So we just saw the recent actions by the US government on Tornado Cash. So how do you see this impacting the case in point for privacy solutions, and what is your view on these sanctions by the US Fed?
I mean, no, it's pretty straightforward. Like none of these things should be happening at this scale. Of course, they will the U.S. government will obviously argue that the things like Tornado Cash were enabling money laundering and all of those sorts of things. Which is fine, which is for completely something that they have a mandate and they want to kind of stick to it and kind of make sure all of this needs to happen. But I think the fundamental place where I felt like they really crossed the line was when they went and arrested the dev, and this was based off of just his GitHub commits. And this starts to put a lot of fear in a lot of people, right? Like, what happens tomorrow to someone like me, who's pushing commits to a particular project because they just want to contribute to it? Is the strong arm of the law going to come after me tomorrow? And this sets like an incredibly bad precedent in general, and it's going to definitely, I feel put second thoughts in people's minds. So yeah, that's my I think they were trying to do what they felt was right, and I'm a bit of a pragmatist, so I kind of say that if that's what has to happen, it has to happen. But doing this is probably taking a step too far, in my opinion. In terms of the general outlook to privacy preserving applications in general. Again, very pragmatic outlook. We definitely don't want to go out there and we're not. I'm not a cypherpunk. I'm not going to say that it's this absolute revolutionary sort of agenda that Arcana has. No, we are absolutely. All we want to do is to help developers kind of build stuff that is more secure, more privacy preserving than the status quo. And we know what the status quo is with the likes of Facebook and Google and all of these people who absolutely prey on your data. Everything is built around a predatory ad-based algorithm, and that paradigm definitely needs to change. And blockchain and cryptocurrencies definitely give make this possible. And if that possibility is there, I think devs will start to take it and start building stuff that starts to respect their users more and puts them front and center and their needs front and center. And we don't end up with this really bad scenario where this is very sinister algorithm preying on just your likes and your comments and the media that you put up and things like that.
Absolutely. I think it was a bit unfortunate as to what happened and how it just increased in things as well, which shouldn't have. But definitely that does opens up a lot of avenues. You take a step back, you realize, okay, how are we doing things? Are we in that image of, or how do we want to achieve and take that path that we really want to get to? So, which is also, I mean, an interesting outlook that you also shared. Another aspect that I'd want your opinion or your view on, we see networking in Web3 has a role to play, and also social media presence of founders and the projects in Web3 is an aspect that has been gaining a lot of visibility and voice. So what is your view on this, and how do you see this as a consideration for growth and presence?
In Web3 especially, I feel like most founders are an extension of the brand that they create. Or they are the basis for the brand that gets created. There is almost sometimes no separation of the two. Like I can't hope to have like a very personal sort of social image, and everything gets tied to what I am and like the company that I run. And this is especially true in Web3. Um, and the reason for it is primarily that almost everything is community first, and your community is also your shareholder in a sense. And so everything you say and do gets judged very quickly, and it can have like massive repercussions on and unintended repercussions on the price of your token. And this is the state of affairs. Like you launch as a protocol, say for example, and you have a token right out the gate, which usually in more traditional markets takes what 10 years for a company to IPO and put their shares out in the public domain. So I mean, yeah, it's harder, definitely. But it's a great tool for people who can master it. And I think we've all seen some people have an absolutely amazing A game on social media, and that turned out to be an absolute boon for the projects that they're backing and or fronting. And it can work both ways, in my opinion. So you have to definitely be careful, and at the same time you need to kind of learn how to leverage it, because the introvert quiet sort of like founder trying to run a Web3 project is going to be so much more harder.
Absolutely. And with the crypto Twitter, Telegram, Discord, that is your entire community that you're growing. And these are the platforms which are buzzing around in order to, because Web3 is resonating with community so much. That's how you grow your community. But you very rightly said that you need to do it smartly. You just can't do it because everybody is doing it and because you have to do it. There has to be a smarter way of doing things. And I think even if the founder is a bit introvert, how the team is portraying the project, how is the entire picture being showcased is very important as to, because social media presence has been gaining that traction. It is important in the Web3 world where a lot of projects are brimming. How do you stand out? What does the technology mean to you? What is the founder's background? Where do they come from? What is the vision that they're taking the team and the community with? I think these again are very important considerations, like you rightly mentioned. Just the last bit from you, Mayur. Like you mentioned as well, right, earlier, the crypto markets have been topsy-turvy for the last few months now, but this time has also showcased what is here to stay and the actual belief in the technology itself. So what is your outlook on the crypto markets for the next couple of months or years, maybe?
Yeah, I'm obviously extremely bullish in terms of like the technology that's going to get built in this space. I think the the number of smart people that are in this space, it blows my mind. I mean, but with everything that is extremely hyped, you will get a lot of mediocre stuff also, and then it basically starts to generate a lot of noise. So how do you filter the noise? Thankfully, markets play that role as well. When they come crashing down, the noise starts to filter itself out. It's almost like natural selection, which I think is pretty cool. But at the same time, yeah, you need to have that much more perseverance and grit as a founder to be able to kind of ride these tides. I've been a founder in the traditional space, and I can easily tell you that this place is just it's absolutely insane the rate at which things change. And I have like 5 emotions through the day, and they can range from being absolutely in the pits to feeling like I'm some sort of superhero. So yeah, in general I feel like this we're going to see a lot of very very cool stuff, very very cool tech just start getting built for sure. And it's going to be tech that is really going to eventually revolutionize the way we do it. But as long as we're pragmatic and we try and do things, I like to say this is basically evolution, not revolution. And as long as we kind of keep evolving and keep improving things one step at a time, then I think we will definitely get to a place where we will see majority of the internet as we know it redesigned, rebuilt to be more, decentralized, privacy preserving, more secure. And it's going to move away from how traditionally applications were built, where basically you front end it with a lot of funding, and then you basically use that money to service customer acquisition, which is basically going and paying all the ad platforms, right? So there will now be newer and better ways in which people can actually do this and bootstrap companies, and start building little communities that can go into really large ones. So yeah, I feel like the next phase of evolution is mainstream applications slowly getting built in this space. I like to call them like rich applications that we use almost every day for all kinds of things, whether it's commerce, entertainment, social stuff, whatever it may be. And we're going to see this start to happen more and more. And yeah, we hope to play our small part in affording this to happen.
Absolutely, definitely. And like it said, right, a lot of projects, a lot of good founders are building in bear markets as well. And we just wait to see how things turn out when markets turn green again for us. And also, it's just about how everybody holds on to the ethos of decentralization, solving for the entire trilemma of blockchain, and keep building and come up to the ultimate solution. When we were in the early era of the internet, we were still skeptical. Okay, how is this going to pan out? From Web 1, we transitioned to Web 2, and now we are here. And now there's so much value, and there's so much addition that we see happening in this space, that it's only time which will tell us, okay, how things pan out and how we get more stabilized infrastructures being built here as well. On that note, Mayur, I would really like to thank you for this enriching conversation today. There is some brilliant work being done by you and the team, driven by the principles of privacy by design. You're solving for a budding need, and we wish you all the success in growing Arcana to greater heights. Thank you once again for being a part of CuratedX and these very useful key insights with us.
Thank you for having me.